Hello. Welcome to Tuesday night. We're doing a Q&A tonight. I know that we've been mixing things up, and I'm totally missing out something funny in our private chat here, but I'll have to read that later. We are going to do one of our standard Q&As tonight. We haven't. I feel like it's been a while since we've done one. I don't know, it's been 2 weeks. So David's here with me. We are going to try to make it. I don't know. Let's see what you guys got for us tonight, chat. Let's see if you can keep us on our toes. Let's bring in David. Hello.
Hey. Yeah, you miss Scott asking that. I think I'll ask. Yeah, I think I'll ask you guys what you know students should do to get into the industry, which might be the question that we had the most.
Probably
maybe that with how should I do a show reel or how should I behave in an interview? Those are probably the top three.
Classics. They're the classics. We should actually, I almost feel like we should do like a recap video, in January where we go over the most asked questions just for fun. It's funny because those are the kind of questions that we could literally just have finished answering it and then someone's for sure going to then ask it. And people are jumping in sometimes midstream, so they're not necessarily they didn't know what was asked earlier or what was answered earlier in the stream, so it's understandable. But that is a popular one.
None of this is prepared, so most probably those questions were answered completely differently each time.
Oh yeah.
So I hope that we were not contradicting each answer, but they were just a slight maybe different angle,
different flavors. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. Maybe the first answer lasted 20 minutes and the fifth one 23 seconds.
Yeah, it completely depends on our energy level and our how close it is to your bedtime and or how early it is in the day for me, and that could have a big effect.
Yep, and the motivation to answer the
that's it.
Same question.
That's it.
Actually, today we have nothing in the backlog, so we're solely going to rely on chat to send us some questions or a curveball or whatever it is, and in the meantime, we're just going to keep the show going.
Yeah. Basically, the show must go on, everybody. And if you don't ask us some really pointed questions, then we're just going to bore you with some crazy stories.
We're just going to ask ourselves questions.
Yeah. That's it. And I do have one to prepare just to warm things up a little bit. And there's a lot of buzz on this. And I'm curious if anybody in chat has witnessed this yet. But has anybody seen the Unreal 5 Matrix demo that got released just sometime, I think it was earlier this week. It was very recent, maybe either earlier this week or end of last. Yeah. Has anybody seen it? Help me out, chat. you guys seen this yet? Because you really need to see it. It's ridiculous. What they did is it's obviously some demo that they did.
So do you know what's the backstory of it? Because when I saw it, I was, well, of course, it's already in the Matrix. It's already you know, a world, you know, a name it as you will, virtual world or metaverse, whatever. It's already that, and that's going to be created in a game engine. So this to be redone in Unreal is just like a little too close to.
Yeah, I know, but I think that was what they were playing with. I think that was the whole point. And they, I mean, obviously they were piggybacking on the, you know, the development of the new film, and so I don't know. They just someone had the great idea, marketing. They break the fourth wall a lot in the demo where they talk about marketing and don't like whatever you do, don't get too close to marketing. They have a lot of fun during the whole thing, which is, you know, kind of meta and like the way the movies were done too. Like there's always that meta kind of feeling to the whole thing. Yeah. But they just took the opportunity to just drill home just how powerful and how realistic that real time can look in Unreal Engine 5. It's crazy. It's just crazy.
So I've heard a lot about it. I've saw a lot of posts about it, but I've not seen it. What is it?
Well, do you want me to show a little bit of it? I mean, if anything, we could use this particular evening to educate you on this Matrix demo.
Sure. Let's see if we get in trouble with all the.
Oh yeah, we should be okay because it's a demo. Like I would imagine they would want that to be shared.
I mean, we're going to do it anyway. I'm just saying that. Let's see.
I like it. Yeah, no, I like it. Let's see what happens.
So someone let us know if we're getting you know, stopped on Twitch or YouTube.
If anything, it would probably be YouTube, I would imagine. So let's see. Let me just set this up here. Play. Oh no, like this. And I'm going to do. Would have been smart if I downloaded it.
Come on, Brent.
I could do it. I'm good.
Do it.
Here we go. Here we go. All right. We go full screen over here. Okay, check this out. Here we go. I will put us over here. Oh, it's already done. Okay, check it out.
Violence.
Oh, there's violence. So yeah. So, you know, if you're, you know, easily triggered by violence, you should probably look away. Here we go.
Are you going to play all of it?
No. We're just going to play a little bit at the beginning.
Okay.
You got it. Like, I think it's the way that they start is pretty cool. It kind of gets you in there right away. It gives you the basic idea. I'll skip ahead to some of the gameplay stuff that they do.
Do you have a little bit of background story of why they chose to?
I don't know why they did. I want to know like who came up with this genius idea to do it. Just obviously someone. I mean, you know who could tell us a little bit more about this would be Jeet, because he was the one that actually told me, "Hey, did you see it? We just dropped something really crazy." So he'll have backstory for sure. G Schroff is a buddy of mine who's he just started over at Epic.
I like the freedom I feel outside the limitations of the real world.
All in Unreal 5, right?
All of it.
Mirrors, reflecting back
even this.
Even this?
This is Unreal 5, dude.
The world we built.
That's pretty impressive.
About why we want to choose this.
Are you sure?
Well, I mean, I think it is.
I don't know. It looks.
Where do ideas of who we are
pretty real.
Oh yeah, no, I think you're right. I don't think this is.
Oh.
You take the red pill, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Well, I mean,
this isn't real. What is real? How do you define real?
For instance, I'm not even sure why I'm here.
I don't know, man. I feel like it could be.
I remember waking up and thinking that I'm supposed to come here. That it was important for me to ask people, how do we know what is real?
That's not real. That's 3D for sure.
Hi, I'm Keanu Reeves. Over 20 years ago, I first played the character Thomas Anderson in the Matrix trilogy.
I gotta say, if it's all real time in Unreal 5, it's pretty impressive.
Bullet time. Back then, we talked a lot about where the digital age might take cinema and narrative.
Because didn't it say at the very beginning it's all the footage? Because if you look really carefully here at the eyes, that's not a real person.
Well, I don't know. I mean, to be fair, I see maybe 6 FPS.
And
okay, well, that's young him. So
that's
definitely
here.
Hi, I'm Carrie Ann Moss, and I played Trinity in the Matrix.
We have Gorilla.
20 years ago, we asked ourselves how long it would be before faces and bodies could be changed as
I don't know. It just says that the following is captured. Like if you put a disclaimer that says this, the following was captured in real time on PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. It says to me that it's all. Like, I mean, otherwise it feels, I don't know.
All right. Well, let's assume for a second that it's real. So, well, no, that it's all in Unreal. That's
crazy if cool. That's the case. Yeah. And then they move on to like a bit of a demo here. And this is definitely all Unreal as well.
Agents are bad, but whatever you do, stay the hell away.
And then it turns into it segues into this really cool gameplay demo. Here we go. Transition into gameplay. Oh man, it's just crazy. But now you're making me second guess. I really want to know, but yeah. See, it's all about animation. Also thinks it's all UE5.
Someone in chat make the research. Let us know.
Yeah.
It's all...
Get me off the hook here because the weird thing is there is an inconsistency to the actual quality sometimes, which is interesting. That's why I'm kind of like, I don't know. It's got me second guessing, but I know for sure this stuff here, that's definitely not real. That's not real Kano. But the first shot, I agree, was like.
But even if it's all in Unreal and this is running on super boosted PC, whatever, it means that it's going to run on most computer, if not mobile device, within 5 years.
That's the crazy part.
It's how fast it's going right now. So
it's just crazy.
Yeah.
This was PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, I believe, was the two that they were using to demo. And during the demo, they changed the logo at the bottom to let you know which one was which, because there's subtle differences, obviously, because different hardware. But
yeah.
Anyways, I'm going to do a little my own homework here because now I want to know. But I'm guessing that it's all
pretty impressive.
Engine.
So how many? So the demo features, performance, like this. I guess, well, yeah, from Veronica, from what Veronica is sharing, seems that it could be all in.
It has to be, because otherwise it would be not, like, why people wouldn't be so excited by it, because it's like there's a lot of just standard affair in there. But the fact that we're both debating is exactly what they were hoping we were going to do.
I would say probably 5 years for this to run on most PC, laptop, maybe even mobile device, and another 5 years to run 2 feed in 8K.
Yeah.
To have a fully immersed like VR environment. So within 10 years for sure, a reproduction of reality to the point that we're wondering, is it real or is it not real?
Oh my God.
10 years is I think the maximum that is going to take.
I'm going to be too old. I'll be like that old man who won't know how to use technology now. That's not going to be fun.
No, you'll still be there.
Think so? I hope so. I'll still be with it. Sharp as a knife. I want to check it out. So yeah, that's what I'm excited by right now in the news. I think that between Unity buying up pretty much everything, and Unreal having already done that for a while and seemingly conquering, it's interesting to see this happen and play out though, right? I mean, what I see here is almost a pissing contest now. When you start having demos like this is like, oh, okay, Unity, I see you're buying Weta, and I raise you this ridiculous demo that, like, have fun beating that. So it's going to get interesting, I think, real quick with those two titans going at each other.
It's super interesting because we thought that Unity was left in the dust, behind, and then they made a few purchases, and then they purchased Weta, and then recently, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, they purchased Sync Sketch, and then wait a minute, where is all this money coming from? Oh, they went public. So now they have a lot of investment that they can make. So, they're basically trying to catch up with all of those investments. So that makes it very interesting because we know that, there's a reason why there's laws against monopoly. Because it just kills competition, which means that, exactly, it stagnates. So to have a healthy competition between two giants like Unity and Unreal is just I mean, it depends. If you have a dystopian view of where all of this is going, then maybe it's not a good news because it's only going to accelerate. this reality. But yeah, and to use the IP of the Matrix for that is just perfect.
It's just
clever. Perfect.
Very clever.
And it has the perfect level of nostalgia from everyone. I think it's in 99, end of the 90s that it got released. And even at the time, it was like, oh my God, a kind of total dystopian view of the future. And now we're getting closer. And it seems that the Matrix was starting to come back into the dialogue, because it seems that we're slowly going there. And so just the timing of the remake of the movie and
everything. I agree.
It's perfect. Perfect marketing.
It is perfect marketing. And it's funny too, because like, as you were saying, like when this movie came out, it was like bleeding edge for VFX. Like that was like, people were like, what the, like they were pulling all kinds of new tech for that, like the bullet cam and all that stuff. And so now they're kind of like, I remember when that was like the best you could do in film. Like, how about do it in real time, and it makes it look even better. That's sort of the statement that you get out of that.
Yeah, there's not a lot of movies from the 90s that aged well in terms of VFX. When you look at them, there's a couple. I mean, we can argue that even Jurassic Park kind of aged well, even if now you can see that it's CG and you kind of see the difference between. But the Matrix aged super, super well.
I feel like the tech, when I look at those older films, the thing that usually sticks out is the compositing. Usually it's like there was like, you could see that the blacks were different and they had a hard time. And I think a lot of that has to do with the way that the movies were then reproduced and then remastered. Because I mean, I don't know how many in the audience might know like the process behind compositing and color grading, but it all has a lot to do with color space. And if that color space changes, depending on how it was done in the first place, it may start to show its seams, unfortunately. And I think it's what we're seeing a lot when we see some of these older films now on DVD, because, it's been remastered. But yeah, I agree. Some of the 3D back then was actually pretty good. Still holds up. Like the Jurassic Park is a good example.
Yeah, I mean, back then they were basically starting, right? So they were doing the 3D model and then animation, then rendering and compositing, but they were basically almost just by their own eye trying to match the background and all that. Most movies now, they will create often a maquette that kind of replicates the CG model. They're going to put it right on the set, take a picture or just film, just to know exactly how the light is going to react to it. And then basically it's their reference with the 3D model afterwards to be able to reproduce it. But
I don't know if I'm remembering this right, but Jurassic Park, I feel like it was, if I'm not mistaken, I think their original plan was to go with Will Vinton Studios and like do stop motion stuff. I think like they were
I thought
exploring.
It was Tippett.
No, Tippett was the one that came in eventually, and then they were like, no, let's do this with digital. I think, wasn't it?
I know that Tippett was involved, and I know that initially they tried with stop motion, and it looked a lot like movies from
like Harryhausen.
Yes, exactly. So I mean, it was well crafted, but it was nowhere near what it ended up being. And I know that Phil Tippett went into deep depression after that movie, because for him it was basically, all right, I'm dead. That's over. He kind of realized that CG would just completely replace stop motion, and I would say probably I don't know, for me until A Nightmare Before Christmas, stop motion was almost like not really existent anymore in Hollywood. It needed this kind of vision that fully embraced stop motion to bring it back.
Totally.
So, it was a little trip in memory lane there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember all the little details, but I remember it was because I remember it being a very big milestone in 3D graphics, in 3D visual effects, when they eventually pivoted and decided to go down that road. Tippett's still alive and well, like his business is still doing really great. He's still doing a lot of stuff, but they did pivot as well. Like they still do a lot of practical stuff. They were heavily involved in like a lot of the Marvel movies and Iron Man especially. But like they've just obviously embraced more of the 3D to be kind of complementary to what the kind of services that they offer. But they were really big. I think weren't they the ones that did all the VFX for Hellboy, the Hellboy movies? I think they were.
I don't know which one. I know the second one was mostly DNEG, but I don't know the others. You might be right. But again, those VFX movies there's often many different studios that are working on them. I mean, they're too massive, and they want don't want to put all their eggs in the same basket in case it doesn't go well. So it usually goes to 3 or 4 different studios, and some of those studios are then
subcontracting it again,
subcontracting to other studios. So you sometimes big Marvel movies, you can have a dozen studios that are going to work on those.
This is why when you wait and watch the movie all the way to the credits, you'll see how many of those extra companies were involved in VFX. It's ridiculous. Some of these movies, it's like 25 plus studios that were involved that are, they're just scrolling by, forever, it seems. Kind of with all when you add up all the subcontracting. And another thing that happens is, like you said, all the eggs not in one basket, because sometimes a studio does not really start delivering and they start falling behind, and sometimes they lose some of their shots and they send them to one of the other studios that is like a big performer. You know what I mean? They kind of hedge their bets. Because at the end of the day, these movies have already pre-announced when they're going to ship. And I working in VFX for many years back in the day, it was always weird to know that I'm finishing a shot right now and the movie is supposed to come out next week. Like, it feels weird. Some of this stuff really is like hot off the press when it goes to, and they can get away with that now because of the digital distribution. Before, they were not able to do it. It's the equivalent of hot fixes. Day one launch of games. Like, if the game comes out, it's broken day one if you're on the disc, and you need to patch it before you can even play it properly. It's like all this. It's like that's like the blessing and the curse of the new era of content creation and distribution. Right? Is you can sometimes people get a little lazy because they can just fix it. No big deal, right? Is less pressure to get it right when it's in the box.
I think it's probably one of my most funny and depressing moment in video game, that when we finally the game is done. Probably was my first one, Rise of the Tomb Raider, and we're done, and then producers were like, what do you mean? We need to start to prepare for day one patch, and then the DLC one, and then again and then again. Like, no, but we just it's over. We run this Iron Man. We're all dead.
What do you mean?
Are you telling me that I need to get up and there's another smaller marathon that is waiting for me?
Yep.
Like, no.
A series of mini marathons. Well, I mean, come on, Davey, you just ran a marathon. You could surely run a couple more. I mean, you got the momentum. Just keep going.
Sure.
Right?
A little glass of water, a little slap
stop being
in the
a big
back
baby. Jeez.
I'm cool for it.
Yeah. And all about animation. Yes, I do work in games, and I totally know. That was exactly why I was making the comparison, is because the two of those things are very similar in many ways. That like the job's just not done when you're supposed to be done. It just bleeds easily into the weeks, because like David's saying, it's not just hot fixes. It's also the DLC, which have already been scheduled, and they the people who bought the game on day one are now promised a drop of new content in 2 months. And you're just like, people are just still recovering from the big push to get the thing out the door. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah. What studios, Brent?
Oh boy. Well, I worked at quite a few. I started my video game adventures in Toronto, of all places. This is way before Ubisoft Toronto. I worked for a company called Pseudo Interactive, and they did a lot of launch titles for a lot of the older systems, 360 and the PS3. They hired me on because all their games were all based on pretty much like carb based games in physics. They had this really cool engine that was all written by the CTO of the company. This really super crazy smart guy named David Wu. I'm not even too sure where he is. He went to 343 for a while, but I don't think he's still there. But he was one of the owners, and he wrote this amazing engine. Like, it was like he wrote it. It wasn't like Unreal 3 or 4 or anything. It was like their engine. And one of the things that it did really well was like these real-time deformations on cars. So cars could get wrecked and all dented up, and it would look really very, very physical and very, very realistic. And even the shape of those dents would then contribute to the new solution to the actual physics if they were to get hit again. Anyways, long story short, they were doing a lot of really cool games. They did a game called Cell Damage, which is still really awesome. They just mastered this and put it out recently. I don't know what platforms, but you should check it out. It's really good. It's sort of like, I don't know if you've ever played Twisted Metal. It's like essentially a car battle game, but this one had like a tune shader on it. It was very Warner Brothers-esque. Anyways, I went over there because they wanted to bring characters into their games because they were only doing cars. And so I had to build a whole team and a whole pipeline around getting characters in, and then unfortunately 2008 happened, and a lot of studios kind of went down, and they had to close shop, and I went to Montreal, and I've been working at Ubisoft and Warner Brothers. I worked at IDOS, and been doing a bunch of stuff ever since.
Yeah,
that's cool. You're still in Toronto. That's awesome.
The VFX was before that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did some VFX in between as well. I did some stuff here at MoCo when we did some stuff when Emil was the VFX soup on or the animation supervisor on Riddick.
Mm-hmm.
We did all those shots of all those dogs on that planet, and that movie. Riddick was the third in the Riddick series, and so there was a studio here in Montreal that had a lot of the shots. But before that, I worked at Toy Box and Technicolor, and I did a lot of VFX back then too.
So if you were going back into just a animator role, no management, no supervision, nothing, you have three choice. You can only choose one: animated feature, VFX, or gameplay animation.
Oh man, that's
which one? And that's it. That's for the rest of your career.
I don't think I could. I honestly wouldn't be able to do it.
You would just joke and do nothing?
Well, no, I feel like, I mean, if I chose one and then I would just regret it, because I think that what's most fun is I like them all for different reasons. And I like the fact that I can kind of roll on and off. Like, I just honestly, like, I go through phases where I'm living and breathing the gameplay stuff, and I really like it. But I think one of the reasons I like it is that I know that it's not going to get old, because I can then, maybe the next thing that I'm doing is going to be working on cinematics for a game, or maybe I'll take a break and do some VFX, because they're just so different, and they have very, very different levels of satisfaction connected to them as well. I mean, anybody who works in gameplay animation can tell you just how visceral and how exciting it is to kind of play your animations. But it's that there's a whole other experience sitting in the theater with your buddies watching some of the work that you did on the big screen in a VFX related film. Like, that's a whole other feeling of what's the word I'm looking for?
Entertainment.
Yeah, entertainment, but also like the feeling you get when when your efforts are recognized.
Satisfaction.
Satisfaction, yes. I don't know. I can't think of the word, but anyways, I think you know what I'm getting at. The feeling, the payoff, essentially, of all that work it's a very different feeling. Like, I still remember when I was in animation school at Sheridan many years ago. I still remember having those screenings of 2D animations we would be working on for months, and we put it up on the screen to see how people reacted, and people laughing at the stuff that you did for the first time. That's like magical when people are reacting emotionally to something that you did with a bunch of little drawings. There's something really magical about that. But no matter what, I would always enjoy this work, but I like the idea of always revolving. So I didn't really answer your question, because I choose not to, David. I choose not.
I mean, choosing to not answer the question is it
was a hidden answer, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's part of the possible answers.
What would you do?
Jesus Christ. If I could go back, and I mean, I would probably I've never done gameplay animation, so for me it would be like between cinematics, animated feature, and VFX. I would probably go back to animated feature. VFX, I really liked VFX, but I feel that I've been maybe lucky because many of the experience that I know about animated and VFX, it's redoing a lot. You get to version 36, and then there's so many level of approval. And it's funny because I had a discussion with Matthew Dimuro last week, right, about it. I was like, Matt, you've been in VFX. He's a close friend. I mean, when I went to Sydney Animal Logic, he was there. When I went in London at DNEG, he was there as well. And he's been in VFX almost forever at Island for many years. Like, why is it that you need to get to version like 78 and go back to version 28? And often another thing is you need to put so much details in your blocking that it's almost like you need to present a final animation just to have an idea of if it's going to be approved or not. And he had a very interesting take on this one, which is basically, directors in VFX are used to feature film. They're used to actors. They're used to reacting to a final performance. they are not used to just see, motion in like a T-stand motion or just step poses or something like that. So it's more the crowd that you're trying to please, those that are going to approve your work at the end of the day are not coming from animation. They're coming from dealing with actors. And so it's definitely part of needing to provide more details than is needed until they realize that, oh yeah, okay, I see where you're going. Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. Let's do this other idea. So I think that this grind of repeating, doing 12 versions of everything and having 6 different level of approval above you, I've heard many VFX studio as well that are, passing shots between animator. Okay, you have too much shots now. We're going to take your blocking. Jimmy over there is going to finish your shot. Oh, Vanessa doesn't have work anymore. Okay, you need to take this one. And it basically feels like a sausage factory. Some of the stories that I heard that at the end of the day, shots just need to be output no matter.
Yeah, that's it. You're not really owning it and crafting it. It's you're just sort of like part of a machinery that needs to get it done. Yeah.
And I mean, I've rarely seen this in animated feature. It happened, but when it happened, it's really because it was like, okay, that doesn't work.
Exception.
We're going to let your lead or supervisor is going to take over. You need a fresh start. Start with this one and let this one go. We need to move forward. But it was never a question of management or deadline or schedule or something like that. It was always a matter of, okay, it doesn't work. Let us help you. We'll take this one out of your plate and start fresh.
Yeah.
So anyway, I love the realistic creature animation and all that, but it's more the reality of production that I might prefer with animated feature, which is usually way more straightforward. You have your average quota of 3, 4, 5 seconds a week that you need to produce. You have layout is coming in. You have the animatic that, and I did a clear kickoff of what is needed by the shot. So it's a little bit more straightforward. I mean, it's still difficult if you're trying to craft great performance and animation, but I feel it's a more controlled environment that allow you to spend most of your time on what is going to be on the screen at the end of the day, instead of just having like 15% of your work on the screen.
Yeah, some people just seem to really, like, in spite of all that, they still, like you said, like Matt, he worked at ILM for so long, and it's like he just lived and breathed it. It's something about, I don't know, again, it comes down to satisfaction. It's like, that's all worth it, because when you see that cool shot in this cool VFX film, it's just so adrenaline filling, and it just makes you feel so great about all that work. But I mean, I remember talking to Fred Cote about some of the horror stories that happened on some of the productions he was on, where like literally sequences that he had worked on months for would just be like, yep, they decided to edit it out. And it's like, holy crap, like hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of just blood, sweat, and tears just chopped off like it never existed. And that's just sort of par for the course sometimes when it comes to some of these really big productions, because they're editing it to the 11th hour and you never know what's going to happen. Like they may make some really completely like 360 decision on something, and you're just going to be like, or not 360, because that would make no sense. You'd be 180 decision on something.
We're cut it. No, it's back in the movie.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's so much of a big decision that it changes nothing. But crazy stories. But some people just, they can't get enough of it. It's just, there's so much. I guess it's just, I don't know. Maybe they just like the drama. I have no idea. But
yeah. And I would say for game, one of the things that was killing me, even with the cinematic, was to deal with the game engine.
Oh yeah.
Just that, a sequence can be final. Okay, it's final lighting, VFX, all of it. Okay, let's not touch it. You come back on Monday, it's all broken. Because something in the level has been updated, and someone didn't check if the ground level was, and it's just exploded.
Yes. Honestly, yes. Yeah. Like it's nothing compares to that. Like, I mean, because yes, shit happens when you're working on film or VFX or whatever, things will happen, but the pipeline is more stable and predictable, as opposed to, imagine, it would be like trying to make a VFX film, but literally the software you're making it with is changing every day. So like sometimes your shot just doesn't open up anymore and you got to redo it. It's like, it's literally that radical where, and the crazy thing is it could be something so random. Like someone changed a friggin' color in like some random shader and it breaks these completely seemingly, I don't even know, like the engineers in video games are just like, I don't even know how they even start to find those needles in a haystack, because we're talking about just thousands upon thousands upon thousands of lines of code. And then they're just like, oh yeah, no, we'll find it. Don't worry. It's just a matter of time. Yeah. But yeah, it is.
I'd say, and sometimes it's just funny. I remember at towards the end of the last Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, came in the morning, in the morning, and someone was like, Dave, you have to look at it. And all right, what are you? And at this point, I'm just, and there's an entire sequence. One of the most important sequence that instead of having Lara there, it was literally a llama that was there. Someone made a spelling error, replaced the R by M, and now you had a llama in the entire sequence. Is like, okay, fortunately, this one was not too difficult okay, let's just repass to the right territory. It's fine. Yeah. But other time it's like, oh no, sorry, you break the cinematic. Yeah, we cannot. No, we won't be able to. You mean what do you mean? Yeah, no. Yeah. Right. You're going to read no, sorry, we made a change that we cannot go back on this one, which means, so you're telling me that we'll need to go back and readjust everything and remove all of the lighting because all of this has shifted by 10 feet because so this is what a technical animator or tech artist will do for the rest of the day.
Yep, pretty much.
And one by one, move everything.
Yeah, we were ahead of the game until that happened. And then it just suddenly you go from being ahead of your schedule to being completely behind by no fault of your own, just because some random creative decision that could have happened. And the worst part is sometimes these decisions, like I've been in the room when these decisions are made. Sometimes they're just like they're made kind of just on a whim. And because
it's a marathon. Everyone is making hundreds of decisions every day, and a few of them are going to break stuff.
That's it. There's no when the decision is made, there's not enough understanding of the repercussions of that, and so it just trickles down like a domino. And if you're at the end of that domino train, then you get the present the next day.
And I think that, to be fair, if every decision on a daily basis, which at some point would become thousands of decisions, thousands of lines, if each one of them had to be vetted and verified and approved by 20 people to make sure that nothing would break nothing, I think that game would just not be made. I think there's some at some point, like, okay, 5% of the time we're going to break stuff, but it's just going to be more efficient to, fix it as we go than spending the time to make sure that we're not breaking nothing at any point. So there's just you have to live with it. But the feeling that, especially when you pay attention to, the FPS and the sync with the lip sync and the mouth, and you're like, okay, we're pretty good. And then you get home, you put this in your Xbox, the previous generation, you start to play, and there's like a 7-frame delay between the lip sync and the motion of the mouse. You're just like, all right, I surrender. Why?
Surrender. Here's the white towel. I'm officially putting it in the ring. I think the other thing, one of my other pet peeves, I think, working in video games, and don't get me wrong, I mean, I currently work in games, as you know, and I always go back to that. I feel like it's the thing that I like doing the most, and then I kind of flirt with some of the other things. I've never done CG full motion, like animation, or sorry, CG full length feature film like you have. I did it back in 2D, but I never did it in 3D for whatever reason.
Oh, you did China.
Well, yeah, that's right. That's right. That's totally true. But it wasn't a theatrical release here in North America. I think it was only in Europe. I think they had released.
I think it was on this thing called a DVD, right?
Oh, what's that? I don't even know what that is.
I don't know. They used to sell those at the grocery.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm going through like Blu-rays right now, and I still actually have HD DVDs. I don't know if anybody, shout out to those who have HD DVDs.
Dude, when both got released, I was like, oh, Blu-ray, just the name alone is disqualifying. Then of course it's going to be HD DVD. So I purchased like 3 HD DVD.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Nope.
Well, I still have a means to play them, thank God, because I bought the HD DVD player that goes with my 360. I think it's the only reason I keep my 360 around is so I can actually watch those sometimes. But I was interested. I don't know why, but I went back to see how many of my Blu-rays were actually in 4K, and like none of them are. I guess it's only just maybe recently that they started mastering some of them in 4K. But it's weird to think that even Blu-rays now are like, I'm looking at them thinking, really? Like they're way out of date now? How'd that happen? But anyways, I digress. I was going to say a pet peeve. One of the biggest pet peeves on video game productions in my mind, especially when you're working on cinematics, is that I've been in the situation before where like you've described some of these sort of difficult scenarios where a decision kind of trickles down and then completely screws a bunch of the things that you're doing in a cinematic. And I find that unfortunately the cinematics, they're in this really interesting catch-22. It's like it is now, especially for narrative-based, character-based games like Tomb Raider, there's an expectation for the bar to be really high, and these cutscenes should be mind-blowingly good, and like rivaling what you would see in a feature film. But whenever it comes to getting the attention that you need or the priority you need, you often get the hey, it's a game kind of attitude from a lot of the actual producers and especially engineers. And that can be very difficult because the job of the cinematics are carrying a lot of water for the actual game itself, as far as the overall polish and feeling and the wrapper of the whole game. And I think that I just feel like a lot of classic hardcore game devs that don't work in the sort of cinematic or the animation related fields, they don't have enough full respect for what needs to get done. Sometimes I'm not labeling everybody like that, but there is an overall feeling sometimes that it's like it's always going to take second place. It's never going to be the most important thing. So when push comes to shove, you figure it out, cutscene people, because this change has to happen for the game to work. And I get that fundamentally, because a game is a game and it needs to be fun. And so if there's something in the way of that, then yeah, we should fix it. But I feel like that argument gets used outside of the context of like, if a cinematic was getting in the way of the game being fun, okay, then you'd have a point. But like, you don't get to use that card all the time and just be like, it's a game, so like it's a gameplay all the time. It's like, well, yeah, I think everyone understands that, but like, I don't know. I just find it's difficult sometimes to navigate that.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some legacy there that, again, we forget how young, just game development is in general. And even 15 years ago, I mean, there definitely wasn't a lot of necessarily attention given to cinematics, because cinematics were mainly there for exposition.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, we either we need to tell a story or we need to let the player understand what is going on. So, and sometimes we cannot just do it with clever level design or UI and all that. So, okay, let's put this extra narrative layer that's going to help the player to go through this. And eventually technology allowed to, okay, now we can put facial subtleties and now we can have the budget to have good actors, and now we have PCAP, we can actually do decent and all this gradually gives the opportunity of creating those amazing performances in the game engine. And I mean, going back to the demo that we've just seen for the Matrix and Unreal, like, we are at a point that even you and I is that real or is it unreal? So just the fact that we're questioning shows where the tech is.
I totally agree.
But not long ago it was not that important, and it takes time for people. But I'd be super interested to have a studio, because that's the what you described, the experience that I had, and it's always like, yes, the story important, yes, the characters are important, yes, cinematic has a place, but once you're in the war room where decisions are made and there's pressure, you need to ship,
you're expendable.
Cinematic is not the number one priority. For sure. And every studio or creative director have their reason, but I'd be super, and that's the story that I've heard the more often, but I'd be super interested to have a producer, creative director, and cinematic director that we can bring on. That's like, okay,
that'd be great.
We've heard that you represent like how it's a, let's say, cinematic department, or the team in charge of the cinematics seems to be working super well hand in hands with the rest of. How are you guys doing? What is informing what is the process to
what's
make it
the
work?
magic?
Because it seems that there's a lot of studios, and there's a lot of studios are simply just outsourcing their cinematic. They're like, you know what, that's not an expertise that we want to build in the studio, and we don't. It's almost like we don't want to create like emotional bonds with this team that's going to redo everything so many times. So let's just outsource it. We're going to pay whatever it needs to be done, and we're going to get the data and input it in the.
The drama, it doesn't have to affect us. We can just keep making those changes. Someone's going to figure it out, because it's like you said, there's nothing personal about
Let's
those
find
decisions.
a vendor or a creative partner that's going to handle this this part.
You know, it would be interesting to get the perspective, because I mean, I look at a company like Naughty Dog, and I would have a hard time believing that the narrative team doesn't have a lot more muscle in those conversations, because it's just such a narratively driven game. And, but I mean, at the same time, I have a feeling that the game directors there, they are these unicorns that are understanding narrative, but they also understand gameplay. And so they're always looking for that really delicate balance between the two. And because the product, it proves it, right? You play through a game that they make, and you realize very quickly just how balanced it feels. It never feels like one's overpowering the other. They always feel like they're complementing one another, seamlessly switching to and from one another. That in itself is a very, very huge undertaking, because you have to understand that most traditional game teams, and I'm going to talk to you because I know you know that, but people that are listening that might not know this, the idea is that these traditionally the game director is often worrying about the gameplay, and then you have some narrative director who's worried about the narrative. But because they're two different sort of departments, they don't necessarily, it takes a lot of extra energy to make sure that those two things are overlapping and weaving nicely. Is every game I've worked on for the last many years, that's always been a hot topic, is like, how are we going to make the bridge between those moments when we switch from a cutscene back to a game and then back again? Like, how do we make that feel like it flows? It doesn't disrupt the play experience.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to do.
Jeet worked on God of War, right?
He did. Yeah, game director of God of War.
So that'll be maybe an interesting topic to discuss with him, because it's one of the games that seem to be blending really well between gameplay and narrative elements. So just to better understand it's Santa Monica Studio, right?
Santa Monica. On this one. He's not there anymore. He left. He's now over at Epic, actually. Yeah, some senior technical role.
So let's hope that he can actually explain a little bit how that works on the hood, because that'll be super interesting to have it.
He's going to be a great guest. Do you remember what date that is? When is he actually on the schedule for?
I have no idea. I don't think he's on the schedule yet.
Really? Let me see. Find out. He's not. I know that there's.
So in the meantime, I'm looking, Scott.
That's right, because
you had one question. By the way, we had no question, and we've been just rambling for 48 minutes. So
that's what happens. That's what you get, chat.
I see one. Scott, you're asking, what about you, Dave? Sorry, Scott,
I already asked it.
That was 20 minutes ago.
He asked it exactly the same time I asked it. He was like trying to steal my thunder. Nice try, Scott. Or maybe I was trying to steal his. We'll never know.
What are your 2021 Agora highlights, studio and community? Ooh, one from Scott. Well, definitely one of the things that we started is those stream. And I remembered it's pretty much exactly the same time of year during Christmas last year that we started to talk about. I know that initially it was a lot about, education. So maybe live lectures, live demo, live reviews, maybe live interviews, live discussion, live Q&A. And we basically just said, hey, let's use ourselves as guinea pigs and just try to see how, just learn the tools, get comfortable with it, see how it's, how it goes with chat and just inviting guests and all that. So I feel very much like this year was a good test run, and we're going towards 20 and 22. Say, okay, based on everything that we've learned, how can we bring this to the next level? So it's almost like a practice for everything that we want to bring in the future, especially in terms of education and entertainment in general. So I would say that for the community side, for me, it's definitely the biggest thing that we started this year. That feels very much like we've just started.
Yeah, I think my highlight I think it's funny because it's going to seem weird that I'm going to say this, but I think it'll make sense once I explain it. But I think the highlight was still the 24-hour challenge, because that 24-hour challenge, there was a trajectory that we had coming out of that really gave birth to streams like this, where we were like, we should just why do we need a 24-hour challenge to do this? We should just have a weekly sort of roster of things. We're always just sort of, reaching out to the community and delivering a constant feed of good content. And so I'm excited. As some of you may or may not know, we did announce just last week we haven't picked an exact date yet, but we are having our second 24-hour challenge, which will be sometime in the new year. We don't know exactly when. I'm thinking probably in February-ish, but we'll see. We'll lock it down and make an announcement when that happens. So that'll be really fun, because I think, like you said, this has been a really big learning experience this whole time, and we kind of have a better idea now what works and what doesn't work. And the ultimate question, why would someone tune in live to material versus just watching it pre-recorded? I think we have some better sort of data to sort of reflect on as to answering that question. So I think it's going to be fun, this 24-hour challenge that's coming up, because I think it's going to be allowing us to. The first one was the first one we ever did. We didn't know what the hell we were doing. So I think it'll be, I say this now, hopefully it ends up being better than the first one.
There's usually way more pressure on the second. It's like music, right? The first, you can, it's lightning in a bottle, but then you're like, okay, can you redo it at least as good as the first one? That'll be interesting to see. And to answer the second part, Scott, regarding Agora Studio, there's been too much. I would digress for 2 hours, but I would say probably one of the most interesting development is how just the business grew and evolved over time, and it evolved in two separate directions, which is very, very interesting. It was not planned at all. Agora Studio started as a virtual studio, so we're basically a vendor. Studio would come and ask us, we need 5 minutes of animation, we need a team to do that, we need characters, we need this and that. So we were providing to studios that were in needs. And in 2021, it kind of took two completely opposite direction. One direction is studio more and more, and we didn't have the bandwidth to supervise everyone. They were like, you know what, we don't actually need you guys to supervise and manage and take care of everything. We just want people. Help us to find people. So there's a part that almost became not really a casting agency, but mainly, let us find artists. And then after that, they started to work with the studio for X amount of weeks, months, but they were autonomous and were not in charge at all. On the other side, we started to be dealt more as a creative partner on some project, meaning that we came very early in production, and our association with Alberto Mielgo for next episodes of Love, Death, and Robots is a great example of that. So very early in production, in charge of all the rigging, all of the animation. And had a big part in terms of developing the style of the. Although Alberto has a very specific style, but just character development and all that. So I would say that's probably the biggest evolution, or the highlight for me is that how you don't have even if you have a master plan, things are going to evolve in unexpected direction. So there's a lot of go with the flow and take the opportunities when they are there.
Well, I mean, it's funny because you this is the thing I think that's most interesting is the parallel between Agora.Community and Agora Studio, because both of them have that same spirit of go with the flow. It's like, I guess that's where we're going, so let's just do it. And there's this sort of you could fight that flow and try to over prepare for it, or you can just literally just try to jump on the wave and just do your best with that momentum. And I've seen that pay off in both the community as well as the studio, and even vice versa. The way that those two things even feed off of one another in interesting ways. We always talk about how how interesting the community is, because it gives us a great way of reaching out and making connections with people. That's what it was supposed to be about from the very beginning, is about making connections and giving access to meeting and learning and sharing. And some of the people we've had on have gone on to be like a guest on our show, and then being somehow partnered up with some of the endeavors with the studio side of the equation, which is in my mind mind-blowing, and it makes so much sense when you think about it. But I think there's things that have come out of this that we didn't anticipate at the beginning. It just sort of happened naturally, which is, I guess, a point for just sometimes you just take a good idea and just run with it and just let the universe figure itself out,
Yeah, it's the idea of, create the soil, create, an environment where an ecosystem is going to grow. There are some very minor initiative that we did 4 or 5 years ago that grew into something pretty substantial on the studio side, and maybe those stream in 4 or 5 years. We're like, oh, remember when we started just those stream in front of 15 people? Well, that was 4 or 5 years ago. Now let's see where that evolved. So yes, this idea that professional artists working with Agora Studio could come create some content, share their knowledge on Agora Community, maybe provide a few reviews. Someone is from the Anem Challenge is going to come and really stand out and be hired in freelance, eventually maybe coming back and teaching younger. So it's all this idea of having this 360 degrees ecosystem that we're starting to build one block at a time.
It's all starting to materialize. To answer your question, the balloons, my birthday was on the 7th. And so, but Christine wanted me, so there's a tradition here. I don't know if it's done everywhere, but there's this tradition at Christmas time called, it's in English, it's the elf on a shelf. And in French, what do you call it? It's like lutin, what's the name of that little guy in French?
Oh, during Christmas time?
During Christmas time, he does mischievous things at night.
Oh, le lutin coquin, I think.
Yeah, something like this.
Naughty
little lutin elf.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically, the idea is there's these cute little stuffed toys, and it's just fun when you have little kids, because basically the story is they show up on December the 1st, and they're there all the way till Christmas, and every night it's like they become animated like Toy Story, and they do things. And so what the parents get to do is they get to like have these just get to have fun and have set these little stages where like they were like climbing the Christmas tree with toilet paper or doing something ridiculous. And so Christine had some crazy idea about me doing something with the balloons. So that's what's happening there.
It's I think it's like 2 weeks ago we unpacked the Christmas decoration that my 11-year-old daughter discovered. It's old lutin that we used to use many years ago, and she just looked at it and she was like, really? All of a sudden it all like she made all the connections like, oh, that's what was happening.
Man. Yeah,
but because we didn't use it for like 3 or 4 years, and then you got time to forget, and then there's a little part of the magic that
yeah. What we're missing here, of course, is the story that he told his daughter at one point, probably, where it's like, well, the lutin's not coming to visit us anymore because he got a new job and he moved to another country. And
it's funny how they evolve. Really, it's the same thing with the Tooth Fairy, right? In the beginning, they're super excited, and then they kind of have their doubts.
Yeah,
and like that, I know it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
and at some point, they become clearer. Like, it does exist. By the way, I have I'll have money, right? Tomorrow. I'm totally believing it.
That's totally. That's it. They go full circle. They're like, they believe because because they're so enamored, they have doubt, and then they believe again, but because there's a reason to believe, Yep. That's pretty funny. I haven't seen that yet. Sequoia, she's only 6 years old, so she's deep in the I believe, and she's like, it's very fun having a 6-year-old. I mean, you went through this just recently, so but it's just Christmas is magic to her right now. She just thinks it's so great, so that's fun.
All right, Brent, do we do a rapid fire? I see a lot of. It's almost like the
questions that have piled up. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So rapid fire, we have 1 minute. Let's say 2 minutes per question.
Okay.
I
see scrolling up
one at 21:51. If
I see it.
At the,
this one here. How the demo reel should be like for someone who's looking to get into cinematics, and any requirements which are needed.
For me, I mean, most like 90% of cinematics are realistic character animation based on motion capture or performance capture. So show them what they want to see. If you have experience with mocap, show that, ideally the before and after, so we can actually see what you've done with the mocap.
Yeah.
Good facial animation, realistic animation. So yeah, show them what they want to see. Mocap, performance, humanoid character, realistic motion.
Yeah,
do it.
Yep. And if you don't have your hands on mocap and you don't know how to use motion builder or something like that, then you're gonna the keyframe's gonna have to be tight. It's gonna have to be very, very good. You're gonna get a big bonus if you can get exposed to the motion capture though, because like David said, most of these pipelines are heavily leaning into that. So if you're coming with really strong keyframe skills, that's great. But it might be a bit of a concern that you're either not going to enjoy editing motion capture data, or you may just be not very fast at it. So there's a bit of a liability there, a bit of a flight risk as well. So you're going to want to be able to prove out that you get that and that you're at least willing to.
Yeah. And if you have no experience at all with motion editing, which is, working with mocap, just take Brent's class. And
you could do that. You could definitely do that. I teach the intro to motion capture over at iAnimate. We try to run it every block. Okay, vPlant. We have, it's a big one. Let me read it first. What part of animating challenges you the most? Either a certain part of the process, blocking, spline, etc., or one of the animation principles. What makes you go, oh no? The only other question, okay, I don't have to say the rest of that because she was just saying she had another question, but she decided to take pity on us because it was a ridiculous question. Okay, I'll start this one. So
right.
I would say for me, the thing that I don't like the most, my biggest fear, are really technical shots that require a great deal of constraints, where there's a lot of interaction between physical surfaces and between multiple people. Those just, honestly, they drive me crazy. And I literally try to block out the scene with none of that. I don't care if hands are going through things, because I want to because if you're blocking, things are going to change a lot. You're tuning things, you're restaging things. You'll just waste time setting up these constraints and then changing them all the time. So for me, I like to try to block them out as best I can, and then kind of do a pass of cleaning them up with the constraints at the end. But it's a lot of no matter how you approach it, it just becomes technical and it annoys me. So I hate them. So here you go, David.
For me, definitely the blocking phase. I know that I'm going to be stuck with whatever decision I made in terms of performance timing and all that. So I have this. I know that future me is going to hate me if I start on a week, or sometimes it's just it's okay, but it's not super original, and then you have 2 weeks to polish something that is not interesting.
Yep.
So I create all this, extra pressure and stress on my shoulders, and on top of that, one of the skills that most animators should develop that I never had the opportunity to develop is drawing skills, which means that for me, posing character, an appealing pose is something that was extremely long and difficult that I could, I could achieve because I had a lot of other skills in periphery of that. But there's some, animator that was just, okay, appealing pose. And literally their blocking would be one afternoon and you see, and it's oh my God, I hate you.
I hate those people.
Yeah. So blocking phase for sure, because of the time it took me to pose the character, and because
I dread.
The dread of, oh my God, I need to create something that's going to be worth my time for the next few weeks.
Yeah. What could possibly go wrong? Okay, scrolling. Advice to the new people in the industry like me. This is one of the classic questions that always gets.
We're going back full circle.
It's funny because we started this stream. It's funny because they followed up with it's probably been asked before, but whatever. It's funny because we started the stream tonight, taking a poke at how this question comes up all the time, because it's
all about animation. You need to let us know what you're doing exactly, because
he's new. And he's in games. That's all I know about him.
Okay,
based on what I've seen him say.
Let's just say, what are you doing, and what is your goal in general? That's
exactly.
Give us a little bit of meat.
Yeah. Tech animation tools dev at Activision. Nice.
Awesome. All right.
Okay.
And where do you want to go from there? Because I would say general advice of new people in the industry is
true.
I mean, on one side, it's have a plan and go there, but at the same time don't, and just go with the flow and figure out what you're going to maybe a TD or character TD. Okay, so you basically are definitely a technical person that has, as an interest for animation, but at the same time, you're more like an architect or someone that likes to solve puzzle than someone that's going to go paint on the weekend. So definitely more the technical side of things. I mean, at this point, it's, without going too much in detail or technicalities, is, what makes a good team player? What makes someone that others want to be working with? Identify those the strong seniors or supervisor, and observe, ask question, be interested into what they are doing. Develop those skills that are in periphery, a little bit of coding, but a little bit of rigging. Try animation, doesn't need to be amazing, but at least understand what animators go through when they're crafting their motion. So yeah, in a nutshell, be a good person, be curious, be a sponge. Just absorb for a couple years everyone around you, and be collaborative. And I mean, and at some point, if you feel that you don't feel that you're growing anymore on a project or in a team and all that, you can look at your options. It's an amazing time to be in the industry right now, because there's so much opportunities that on one side you need grit, you need to persevere, but at the same time there's so much opportunities that look at the options. And if you feel that you've stopped growing in a place, maybe it's time to look elsewhere, if you could. Because the more time, and Brent and I've moved from studio to another. I don't remember I've ever been laid off from a studio. Maybe like a project that got canceled and we all, didn't have work anymore. But the more you unroot yourself and you go grow roots somewhere else, either it's in another country or another studio or another team, this is when you learn. So getting out of the comfort zone is pretty important as well.
Yeah, I wanted to reinforce kind of something that you mentioned. I think that the biggest thing that you're going to need to remember is that in that role, you are essentially responsible for building the tools and pipeline for a very artistic department. And so you're going to need to either continue to grow in an artistic way, in my opinion. You need to understand the struggles and the challenges that department faces, because I find one of my biggest pet peeves is when technical people, they have these solutions that are perfect, quote unquote, for the animators or for a group of artists, but it makes zero sense to the artists or the animators. It's like it's a tricky thing. In the ones that are really good at this job, they totally get it. It's like they can at least see themselves in, they're good at putting themselves in the shoes of the other person. But to do that, you need to understand a little bit about what the job is. So I would definitely stay up to date with just what it's like to be an animator, or whoever, if it's animators that you're serving, if you're working with technically, make sure you understand and spend a lot of time talking to them and try to listen a lot and try to understand where those struggles are, because you'll be a hero if you can really actually solve their problems rather than create new problems by making solutions to problems that don't exist. I've seen this too often from technical people, and it always ends up creating friction. So if you really want to be a hero, that's the way to do it.
Sometimes it's one of the trap, and I fell in that trap because I started at being a fairly technical. I remained an animator, but I was very technical. I scripted my own tools and all that. And sometimes we fall in the trap that we solve the problem that are interesting for us to solve, rather than solve the problem that's going to help everyone or those that are going to use the tools. And when you apply this in production, it means that at some point there's a time, a budget, and a deadline. And if you spent all the time and budget that you had to fix a problem, but the way that was fun for you to fix it, instead of of providing what the team really needed, this is where it becomes difficult for everyone. So just be mindful of the big picture of what you and the team and the project is trying to achieve.
At the end of the day, the analogy I like to make is like, a mechanic and an engineer developing a race car. It would be weird for them to develop this race car and the technology, but having no experience behind the wheel and not spending any time really getting to understand the driver. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make any sense. It's like, it's a team. It's like the driver is going to be the one using it. You need to make sure that you're making it ergonomic for them specifically. It's a very specific problem to solve. Your ideas might be great, but do they apply to the person in question that's going to be using the tool is the main question. I just find that some people I've noticed have lost their way, and sometimes that creates just a ton of friction, and it's just not worth it. So just, that would be my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah. And I'm going to answer your question, Adrian B. The question was, how many walk cycles to get a job? I would say you just need one, as long as it's really good. Amazing.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. We did it all the way to the bottom. Yep.
That's ending with a little rapid fire there.
Yeah. Good times.
See, we don't take question in the backlog.
Yeah, we don't. We can totally just wing it.
Yeah,
it's totally.
We can just improvise for 45 minutes and then have all of the question in the last 5 minutes.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Chad. Well, thanks, David, for showing up. Everyone, keep in mind that we will be shutting things down for a little bit during the holidays. So if there's not as much happening, that's why. We do plan on coming back on force in January. So please stay tuned. We do have something next week, though. We have something.
We'll be there next week. It was supposed to be the
roast, right?
The roast.
Yeah,
but we chose to keep it for a better,
something special.
Yes, for something
a better venue.
Special.
Yeah, we do have a conversation with tomorrow as well with Mark Thornton, who's from Toronto. He's one of the co-owners and co-founders of Neptune Studios, and as I mentioned before, that studio was responsible for lots of different properties, but one of the more famous ones is Total Drama Island. So if you are interested in very hyper stylized and very comedic Saturday morning cartoon style stuff, then definitely come check that out, because it's gonna be awesome.
And we have this, and we have Scott that says on Friday. So
is that where? What? Oh yeah, is it on Friday we're supposed to do it, Scott?
It's no, it's Thursday. It's
Thursday,
yeah. So you were both wrong. Exactly. So it's not tomorrow. It's not Friday. It's Thursday.
What? Mark Thornton? Is that what we're talking about right now?
Yeah.
Oh, really? God, I suck.
Yep. And then next week, probably do another improvised Q&A like this one, and then
Mark Thornton is tomorrow. It's Wednesday. It's right on my calendar. I'm looking at it right now.
I'm looking on Agora.Community.
Then that's interesting, because it didn't get changed on our Google Calendar. It's a good thing this happened right now, huh? Otherwise, I just wouldn't have been showing up. That's awesome. 1 second. We're experiencing technical difficulties. Scott, cue the bars and the tone.
All right, Scott, fire someone.
Yeah, someone needs to get fired immediately. Let's see. You're right. I think. Yeah, it's true. In the schedule on the live page, it's Thursday. So I think we better get to the bottom of that, because if we sent an invite to Mark on the Googles, then they're probably thinking it's Wednesday.
All right. The good news is we have at least 15 hours to solve this.
Yeah. This is totally random. This never happens, by the way. We usually have things really, really well organized.
Yeah. This is not at all how things are going behind the scene.
No, I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking this is the way it usually is. Totally not. This is just, anyways, so let's go. So have a good evening, Mr. Hubert. Enjoy your sleep, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. We'll get this all sorted out for you. No problem.
All right.
Okay. Bye, dude.
Bye, chat.
Yeah, so we'll figure that out, but I think that I'm just going to do a quick check here, because I believe no, it's not. We do have another conversation on the 21st as well. No, it's the what was supposed to be the roast. So we have something happening this week. Either it's Wednesday or Thursday. I looked through the email chain and it's Thursday. Okay, well that's really interesting. Okay. We'll get to the bottom of it. So one way or another, we're having something happening with Mark Thornton this week, and then we have what was going to be the roast next week, but we're going to switch it up for something else. I don't know what that is yet. We'll find something Christmassy themed to do probably, and then we're done. And then it'll be Christmas, and then we won't be back until January. So if I don't see you all until January, then please do have a happy and safe holidays, and don't forget to stay animated. Hopefully you ask for some nice animation related things for Christmas. from Santa Claus, and hope all your wishes come true. Talk to you soon. Bye.